Greetings, everybody. Thank you for being in the space with myself and a phenomenal man, a mentor to myself, and a sexual wizard, which we will get into and talk a little bit about his practice of ejaculation choice. And I'll share some of my own experiences of how this practice has fundamentally transformed so many different aspects of my life. And I think is really a medicine that young men are deeply craving for, which is how to control and more so than that, how to use your sexual energy to call in abundance and the blessings that you want in your life. So, Leonard, thank you so much for being you and for being here in the space with me.
Awesome, David. Thank you. It's always wonderful talking to you, brother. Great being here.
Give thanks. So I guess as simply as you could articulate it, how do you describe the practice of ejaculation choice?
In essence, it's bringing consciousness to your ejaculation, becoming aware of your ejaculation and the effect on your body and how you're doing it and when. Total awareness to this aspect. So it doesn't just happen automatically, making love and after X time, minutes, seconds, you ejaculate in just this 2, 3 second experience and then fall asleep and that was it. So it's becoming much more aware about ejaculation, becoming aware that you're losing a lot of energy when you ejaculate, um, and then finding the rhythm of how often you ejaculate that's fit your lifestyle, your age, your health, season of the year, so many aspects. Um, so yeah, it's a practice of thousands of years ago from the Taoists and the Tantrics in ancient China and India, where they could really learn how to move energy in around in their body, moving it away from their groin area through their body, which would then delay the gratification, and then you could start having multiple orgasms in your body.
Wow.
Orgasm and ejaculation are two different things, and all of this is part of this practice. That is a big mouthful. There's so much to talk about on this, but there's some few pointers there, David.
No, yeah, 100%. And I think, that just in its own right of bringing conscious awareness to ejaculation and definitely something we were never taught. We were never taught as kids, and you get taught about ejaculation, you get taught about masturbation, about sex in these very um I think where I learned mostly from it was from books and movies and the popular culture on the time, which is just so um it just it doesn't help your developing mind as a young man around sex, around ejaculation. And I, for instance, was never taught that you ejaculating would affect your energy levels. And I believe that's got a lot to do with pornography and marketing using sex as a tool for sales and almost wanting you stuck in that shame and guilt cycle. So something I want you to just touch on is it's becoming quite trendy now in popular culture. Everybody is talking about semen retention and to just to stop ejaculating. And there's a lot of misinformation out there. And I think it's important for young guys who are interested in these practices to speak to an elder or someone with some real life experience in these things and to actually sort of demystify these practices a little bit. So I'd ask you, what is your understanding of semen retention, this term that gets used a lot, and how is it similar and how does it differ from ejaculation choice?
Yeah, super important. To simplify it, I always like simplifying things. There are almost two
Mm.
camps in this semen retention ejaculation choice world. The one camp is, guys, never ejaculate again and retain your semen for life. And look what our businesses I can build with not having sex and not ejaculating and not losing my semen. So that camp, that's called it Camp A. And then there's Camp B, which is where I fit in, which says ejaculation is beautiful. There's nothing wrong with ejaculation. Just bring awareness and consciousness to it. Um, so this Camp B is very pleasure positive. It's very sex positive. Camp A, not. You know, it's not about pleasure. It's not about sexuality. It's kind of negative in that space. Um, and they're different journeys for different people, so not knocking any of these. However, what I'm passionate about is conscious ejaculation, where you honor your ejaculation, you enjoy it, you just bring awareness to it. You were just talking about energy loss, when every time we ejaculate, we lose like 300 million sperm cells, plus over 200 different vitamins and proteins. So just being aware of that is that if you ejaculate 5 times a day, the next 40 years of your life, you're going to be pretty exhausted and you lose all this energy out of your body. Remember, the sperm cell is something that can create life. The sperm and the cell get together and it creates life. So the sperm is all the nutrients, all the best of your body that gets into the sperm cell. And that's why you procreate and you create life with that. Now, if you just 5 times a day ejaculate in your sock or in a shower and you do that for X amount of years, you're depleting your body. So that is almost the first thing to bring awareness to. And then there's so many other benefits also. But yeah, I think that's a critical part.
Thank you so much. And that's I I think it's amazing that semen retention is becoming a more common narrative that's coming out in the popular culture. But my worry is that and fundamental to your course and the work I've been doing with you is in removing the shame from the ejaculation. And I think watching pornography, masturbating, growing up, ejaculation has so much shame associated with it.
Mm,
And so I think a lot of people, maybe they hear about semen retention and they say, okay, I'm going to just stop ejaculating.
mm,
But once again, then after even 10, 12 days, which is a very good period of time to not ejaculate, then they ejaculate and they feel that shame because somebody online is telling them, no, they actually just don't, that they're not ejaculating. And I
mm.
feel like that can cause some problems for young men. And we live in this culture with social media and everything, pushing all this stuff. Oh, do more, do more. You're not doing enough. You're letting your potential go to waste. And sadly, I see the semen retention narrative falling into that as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. You know, as you said in the beginning there, our education was the two parts to sex education, religion and pornography. So religion saying it's bad and guilt and shame, never have this, you're going to burn in hell if you do this before marriage. And then you have pornography that showing you total unhealthy, unrealistic way of sex. So this is the education we got. And then we go through all of that, and then we go into this more, let's say, this conscious awareness road, spiritual road, whatever you want to call it, and come
Mm.
across ejaculation choice and semen retention. The last thing we want to do is say to people, if you ejaculate, you're bad, and you should feel guilty and shameful. That's, that's the last thing you want to go to. Bring
Yeah,
awareness to
yeah.
it, yes, and learn from it. But there's no shame in any of that. And even if you practice it and you try not to ejaculate for 7 or 10 days and you do after 3 days, that's okay. Everything is fine. It's perfect as it is. There's no mistakes. You're on a journey. So I love what you show, about what you're saying about taking shame and guilt out of it.
Yeah, no, no, amazing. And the power of the practice is unbelievable. If you go 3 or 4 days, it is something you just have to experience. I can't express that, but the things shift. Your skin shifts. The confidence that you women are drawn to you. They want to come and speak to you, and it's just because you're cultivating that healthy masculine sexual energy, and it doesn't just have to be used for sex as well, which is another really exciting part of it, is that that energy can be used for different avenues and can be transmuted into your creative pursuits, and your desires. So maybe that's just something that I want to speak to you about in terms of that, like, sexual alchemy, which is again probably like this buzzword in the spiritual community, and like sexual transmutation and all this stuff. But if you could maybe, in as much of a demystified way as possible, express your understanding of using sexual energy, and maybe sharing an example from when you've used this energy to manifest something in your life.
Yes, beautiful. Yeah, the sexual transmutation, let's once again simplify. It's really taking this energy that's in your groin area, your sexual life force energy that builds up when you get like randy, yaks, the good word in Afrikaans, horny, and it builds up
Yeah.
there. You can actually breathe it up into your body. And that can happen with lovemaking, where you can breathe it up and all this energy is all over your body, not just in your groin area, and you feel the tingling all over your body. So the physical experience of that is beautiful. But then,
Mm.
as you alluded to, there's also the aspect of bringing this energy up through your body that you can then utilize for certain purposes in your life. Um, you can bring this energy up and you can bring it into creative space. You can go and sit and have this energy building and then spread it through your body, and then go and sit in front of your typewriter, computer, laptop, and start writing. Or if you're a painter, or if you want to paint, go and take that energy and paint. Or you're a business guy, go and sit in your desk of your business, or out in the garden or nature, and what's the next business I want to start? So this is super powerful energy, life force energy that we procreate with, but we also create everything else with. So if you can bring that procreation, sexual energy up into through your body, into your brain, you can start businesses with that. You can manifest career opportunities with that. So just by to make it practical, you can sit there and then all this creative energy, bring it to your mind. Okay, what shall I do with my business, my distribution channel? And you'll be surprised how that energy, bringing it up in your body, into your brain and into your heart, how that can manifest in creative ideas. Then there's also, you may have heard, or guys may have heard about sex magic, where you can also use that to manifest something in your life. Now, you can do that with a partner, or you can just do it in your own, self-pleasuring, masturbating, not bringing yourself to ejaculation, but close to the point, and then breathing the energy up, and then sending it out towards your manifestation, what you would like to manifest in what area of your life, whether it's wealth or health or anything really, relationship, calling in your partner, your soulmate. You can self pleasure and put that energy out. And I'm calling in this beautiful person into my life, new partner into my life. So yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing, amazing stuff. And this is not new, David. There was a business book actually written in 1939 by Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. It sold over hundreds of millions of books. I think it's probably the best business book ever. And there was one chapter in it called Sexual Energy Transmutation. And the guy looked at 13 factors, attributes that make, he interviewed hundreds of men and what make them successful in life. And it was in business and arts and many areas. And one of those 13 attributes was sexual energy transmutation, this thing I've just been talking about. Now, imagine that was in 1939, published in America, of all places. And it was actually a name of the chapter of the book. And it went out and it was accepted, and it was a as a really popular book. So yeah, there's so much here. There's so much proof here, not just spirituality, but also in science.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And you always look at highly successful people, and it's always there with highly successful people is how confident and just how they work with their sexual energy in this kind of flirty um and not in a not in a distasteful. We often think, when we think of sexual energy, then we think of being overly flirty and it all being about sex at the end of the day. But it's actually not that, and it's such a fun energy to work with other people, and with other men, playing with that flirty sexual energy with other men even, and just everybody that you come in contact with, and it's such a beautiful energy to play with. And it is obviously the energy of creation, because that is how um, children, babies, are brought into this world. The masculine and feminine polarity, and in this sort of state of ecstasy, this creative act unfolding. And yeah, and that's when you work with these things, and that's what's amazing about Tantra and these practices, where they've really articulated, we are here for this ecstatic experience. And that is these are these high frequencies that we can attain through lovemaking, through dance, through breath work, through yoga, through any number of things. But for me, the most powerful step has always been to control the ejaculation, which I'm also viewing as controlling immediate gratification, because that's the real call to young men right now, is to not give all your energy to immediate gratification, because it's all there. We can have it all. You can to a goal. You can do any number of these things and immediately get it, instead of putting in that effort. And when it does come, how much more beautiful it is. And the experience of ejaculating after uh, 5, 6, 7 days, it is unbelievable, and that pleasure is so much heightened. And that's a general trend that I've noticed when we avoid immediate gratification and rather pursue a long-term end, how it is so much more ecstatic and joyful in that process. But yeah, something, and so that's
And
maybe something I want to ask you about. Sorry,
no,
please.
no, maybe I just want to add one thing there, David. 100% agree. And also the aspect by doing it is that your love making lasts longer. You learn to make love for longer. That is also a
Yeah.
critical aspect. Average love making lasts like 5 minutes. That's the research around the world, after penetration. Now, for a man, after 30, 60 seconds, we are ready. But a woman takes 15, 20 minutes for her body to warm up. So there's a little difference there. So therefore, by
Yeah.
practicing this, you learn to make love for longer, and for 15 or 20 minutes or an hour or two. So that's also a beautiful aspect that you learn with this practice.
Yeah, 100%. And just to add on my personal experience, when I first came in contact with you and your work, I was really struggling with premature ejaculation, and it was such a point of contention, and just a point of undervaluing myself, because of this, because I couldn't satisfy lovers in my life. And it was something that I held a great deal of shame towards. And your course revolutionized that. It transformed everything in those 21 days. Where we didn't ejaculate. And that's the structure of Lenerd's course, the 21-day orgasmic mastery, is you're in a container with other men where you do not ejaculate, and there are various agreements, no pornography, no ejaculation. You're still masturbating, and you're still having these self love ceremonies, but with the idea of not ejaculating. And after that course, I never struggled with premature ejaculation again. And it was that understanding of this. Okay, maybe I don't need to, it's not a race. It's not I don't need to, and I don't need to put myself under all this pressure as well. Which is, yeah, also when you just, you issue orgasming and what's you put yourself under this pressure and then you can't perform. But through the container, and I think it's removing shame from the lovemaking process, from the ejaculation, that really has that transformative power where it just then stops becoming an issue. And even if my masturbation frequency or my ejaculation frequency is a bit higher, um, maybe even up to the point of ejaculating every day, how it still is less of a problem because of that groundwork, that fundamental work that has been done in removing that shame from the ejaculation, from the lovemaking. Um, so a question I just want to ask you about, and because of my work in the men's space, this is something that does come up so much. And a lot of men that I'm speaking to, they have a great deal of shame around sex, around lovemaking, and that is due to pornography addictions and their relationship with pornography. So as I mentioned in the course, one of the agreements that all the men make in the container is to not watch pornography. And so it's obviously it's more of a problem, I guess, for my generation, although probably not even really. I mean, it's
Everyone,
so
everyone.
accessible. Yeah, exactly. So if you could just speak on why it is so problematic to be watching, and particularly to be ejaculating to pornography, and then maybe suggesting some measures that men can start to take control of this very oppressive force in their lives, and it absolutely crushes relationships. From my own experience with partners in the past, to tell a partner that you watch pornography can be incredibly traumatic for them, and it's such a part of most men's daily lives, and it always hangs in the shadow, but the energy always lingers, and there's always awareness of it. So could you speak on that, please?
Yeah, sure, David. And I think you're spot on. You've started when you started framing that, you used the word shame. And I think that's a big part of it. So most men, I think, when they watch pornography, feel shame when they do, or guilt when they do, or at least afterwards. Um,
Mm,
so it just strengthens the whole shame thing. So first we had the church creating guilt and shame. If I say church, religion, generally speaking, almost all religions. And now that we have pornography doing the same. So what's happening is then you know the next if you watch porn and you ejaculate, and we know in pornography it's all about the money shot, the ejaculation shot, the cum shot, and it's best if it's in the face of this woman or two, three women. So that's how we all now being taught this is the best thing. Then we watch pornography and we ejaculate on that space, and then afterwards there is this shameful feeling and guilt feeling. That energy follows you into the next day. So the next day you walk in the street, you're out in a coffee shop, you're out in the real world, and that energy still
mm,
sits on you. It sits in your energetic field, it sits in your aura, it just sits in your brain because you're feeling this in your heart. It sits everywhere. So now you're interacting with women and women feel that. So just that is already a disconnect. And you often even don't connect with the woman because now you ejaculated last night, you had this relationship with your screen babe, as I call it. Now the next day you see this beautiful girl, there's no incentive for you to talk to her. Now, if it wasn't for porn, he didn't ejaculate, maybe you would be like, wow, I really need to speak to this woman. I feel the energy. I feel horny. I feel attracted. I feel a desire. And then you'll at least have a discussion with her. So number one, it takes that incentive away. So now you don't. You just go into mind movies and you feel bad afterwards that you didn't approach her. Or number two, you do approach her, but now you come with this energy. Or even before you approach her, she walks past and behind, look at her bum, but you look at it all in a sly way, and that she can feel that energy, as opposed to looking her straight in the face when she comes to you and smiling at her, but with admiration. I tell you now, 99.9% of women, when you actually just do that with them, are super open. And you actually just say, you can even say, well, I think you're beautiful. That energy they would love. There's the other energy that they hate and that they always talk about the predators in men. And that predator energy comes from that watching the porn. Um, so that's just one practical aspect, that would affect your life in meeting real women out there. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So there's so many aspects here. Yeah. We talk for hours about this.
So yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I just one more question on that, which is what what sort of practical steps can guys take towards changing this narrative? Because what I see happening is that the the act itself is this there's a shame energy and everything, and guys start to now habituate these things, like guys not being able to fall asleep at night without ejaculating, guys really use ejaculation to regulate their nervous system, and to be in that state of be so like unenergized, to be so almost dull, numb to the world, just in the way that people use marijuana or
Sure.
alcohol or any number of these things, to just kind of numb the feelings. Um, so yeah, and maybe I'm pointing it in a direction towards a more like emotional release that is needed, so that men aren't so controlled by that shame and like kept in those cycles, because um, what it feels like to me is that numbness is trying to protect the self from feeling, because, and especially as a man, we don't want to feel what is inside, because we were taught that there isn't a place for that, and that nobody else wants to hear it. So maybe that's the question is um practical ways that we can uh, sort of work through this fear that we have of just being present and just being ourselves, and that being all right, and not this need to constantly numb or to distract from the present moment.
No, spot on, David. I also want to start with the last sentence you mentioned there before the question, and that was, we as men often haven't had the permission to be in our emotions, or have been taught to be in our emotions. Um, and that is actually one of the big reasons, for example, premature ejaculation or for short lovemaking, is that we're not used to feeling emotions in our body or pleasure in our body. So emotional body and the sexual body are actually quite closely related regarding this, because our emotional body is not developed. This is a generalization, obviously, but generally speaking, you're not taught. And if it isn't developed, then when you make love and that those emotions and the pleasure come through the body, then
Mm.
your body just, it's too much to handle. And that's why you immediately ejaculate or ejaculate fast, because it can't handle all this emotions and all the sensations that are coming through your body. So your emotional body learning how to express and release your emotions is actually hugely beneficial for your sex life. um, so that is such a critical point that's often overlooked. So I suppose that then ties into the practical points that you asked. That would be one big thing, is to actually start learning to move your emotional body. Now, that could be like, just to give one quick example, I like to keep it practical. Take a cushion, put it down on the floor, take your arms and wow, 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 hit the cushion and wow, make sound, breath,
Mm.
sound, movement, and move energy that's stuck there. So let's say you're feeling angry about something, that's a classic example where you can just go and spend some time moving it to express your emotions, not to push it down. And there are many tools, regarding that you can do, hand screams and many aspects. And you can just put your hand over and then do a scream to also feel frustration or, and there's some stuff for sadness. And there's so many tools in this space. But just using those two, three I mentioned now, just by starting using that, you'll move the energy in your body. And you were saying the guys that in the evening, and I'm sure all of us were there at a point where you have to ejaculate to fall asleep, or you had a stressful day at work, and you just mind is going, then it becomes a very addictive behavior. Now you're using or abusing your body to fall asleep. It doesn't make any sense. Um,
Yeah.
and so actually moving the energy, doing some expression release, doing and another practical tip is doing, if you are doing self-pleasuring, maybe doing it, but bring yourself close to ejaculation in the beginning, like at 50, 60%, not 90%, because you'll crash over. But then actually not ejaculate, move the energy through your body. Another practical thing with that is do that without watching porn. You don't need the porn, especially if you're in your 20s and your 30s and your teens and your 40s, any age really. Do you really need the pictures? I mean, we as men are horny creatures, well, women also, humans are horny creatures. So you can just touch your own body and touch your nipples and touch your legs and, and your groin area, and you can fantasize if you have to. Um, or you can just use your body contact and do that without watching porn. Um, that is a massive advantage in terms of that. So yeah, I think
Yeah. No, 100%. And yeah, that's been also a massive practice for me is because so now when how we grew up from a young age, we're now exposed to pornography, to masturbation. So from a young age, we're masturbating to pornography to ejaculate, where the like it's a race to get to the ejaculation point because you're hiding in your bathroom, and you're playing music so nobody hears you and you don't want to, you know, um, and so you're in this like shame little bubble that you've created for yourself, of like, oh, I have to finish this um, but whereas what and this practice that you've introduced to me around sort of setting the intention and starting very slowly and massaging yourself and working um into that pleasure, and very much sex in my understanding is all about pleasing the woman, which will also bring a massive change to your lovemaking if you shift that focus onto your own pleasure as opposed to the partner's pleasure, that there's this goal that you need to get to, of the elusive orgasm that you are there to give to her, and then you're both under this pressure. She's wanting to perform, you're wanting to perform, and it's just it never works because you're not just focusing on your own pleasure. And so through that self pleasuring practice that is not focused around the ejaculation and that end point, it is transformative. And the way after you haven't ejaculated for say 5 days, the feeling of somebody say putting their fingers through your hair or scratching your back, or and even yourself, doing these things yourself, it is phenomenal, and that's also a part of, tantric lovemaking, where it's not so friction driven, and it's just a deep presence between a masculine and a feminine, where you're just sitting in that presence, and there's no destination, or there's no and that's really those transformative ecstatic experiences. Actually, a lot of them are existing outside of the orgasm, outside of the ejaculation. Um,
Oh,
but
yeah,
thank you, Leonard. That's
yeah.
yeah, it's a phenomenal practice. Like I say, it's absolutely changed my life. There's a lot of practices that I've incorporated into my life uh, with the purpose of transformation, but the ejaculation choice has been the most powerful that I can say, and it's worked the quickest as well, which I was also so shocked about. So I'd say if guys are feeling lethargic, are feeling like they don't have that energy to go after their goals, to go after women, to express themselves, to go to the gym, to do these things to really make you the person that you wanting to be. A lot of people just lack that energy, and I see this as the source of that energy. When we stop giving away this energy to pornography, to just this instant gratification, then we can start to use this energy that is so potent to really call in the lives of our dreams. So thank you for demystifying the practice. If there's anything else you'd like to talk about, any points you think we've missed that are important, please add in.
Oh, beautiful put, David. No, just the one thing that popped into my mind as you were sharing there about the pleasure, and it was actually one of the guys that was at the same time as you on the journey, and he came actually because he said, "Wow, I want to really give a lot of pleasure to my wife." Also a young guy. I think he said, "Well, he was about around about 30." Early 30s. And he was on this course. I want to become this best lover, and my ego, and all of that, which is so beautiful. Nothing wrong with that. And then one of his big takeaways was, and his partner's takeaway was that he actually dropped into his own pleasure and he went, wow, this is actually about me, not about her. And then the most beautiful aspect was her reflection back was I could actually feel that you weren't trying to do things to me, that you were dropping into your own pleasure, which was a massive turn on for me, for her. So she then dropped into much more arousal because you could see her man was now in his own body and in his own pleasure. And he was just in a journey with her. He wasn't going to a destination. He was journeying with her and she felt it. And that gave her so much more pleasure. And he was just sharing it and said, wow, man, he never saw that one coming. But this was amazing. And it was amazing for his partner. His partner was like, wow, she was just talking about it. And it was so
Yeah.
happy that you went on this journey because it changed their life making. So that was the only point it just flagged up as you were talking through that. And you're awesome, David.
Mm.
Thank you, man. It's wonderful talking to you, brother.
Yeah, thank you, Lenerd. Yeah, I think that's the call to the masculine right now, is to really become deeply present with who we are, and to stop trying to please everybody else, to
Mm.
pleasure everybody else, and to just focus on pleasuring ourselves. And through that practice, I see that we can really bring a far healthier version of masculinity that the the world is craving. It is so necessary right now, more than ever before, that we bring in a healthy masculine that is enriching itself and enriching the brothers around it. So thank you. I see this work, controlling the sexual energy, controlling your emotional energy, and how closely related they are. These are the things we were not taught in school that have men struggling in life right now.
Mm.
So deep gratitude to you for doing this work, for getting this message out to the world, for demystifying the practice and from removing so much shame from it that I can't stand with the semen retention narrative that gets pushed. It gets pushed so much that you are just it's a much more healthy masculine narrative that you're sharing. So
Thank you,
thank you,
man.
Leonard. Thank you
Wonderful.
so much.
Thanks, man. Nice talking.